Lucas Patrick. That is the name, that is the move, and that is only the start. First, the Giants added veteran help. Then, the center question got louder. And then, the Real warning hit. Big Blue still has a glaring interior problem. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what this signing really means. Big Blue lock-in. Breaking news from the facility. The Giants signed veteran offensive lineman Lucas Patrick. On the surface, that sounds simple. Depth. Insurance. Another body for the offensive line room. But that is not the real story. The real story is what this move says about John Michael Schmitz, the center spot, and how limited the Giants' options are getting before the season. Real talk before we dive in. Eagles fans, Cowboys fans, and Commanders fans love when Giants fans stay quiet. Not here. This channel is by Big Blue, for Big Blue, and every subscribe is a flag planted at MetLife Stadium. Hit subscribe right now if you want Giants Daily pushing harder than every rival channel. Comment, "Let's go Giants," and let them see who runs this place. Now, story 1 starts with Patrick, but it does not end with Patrick. Because when a team signs a veteran offensive lineman at this stage, you do not just ask, "Can he play?" You ask something sharper. What are they worried about? And Big Blue, I think we already know the answer. Here is the part most people will brush past. The Giants added Lucas Patrick, and the easy reaction is to say, fine, veteran offensive line depth. Move on. Nothing dramatic. Not so fast. Patrick matters because the Giants did not make this move in a vacuum. They made it with the offensive line picture still unsettled, especially inside, and especially at center. The early reveal is simple. Lucas Patrick is now in the building. But the deeper message is louder. The Giants know the interior offensive line still needs protection. Not hype. Not slogans. Protection. John Michael Schmitz is still projected to start at center, even with concerns around the position. That is the key sentence. That is the pressure point. That is the entire story hiding under the signing. Because if the Giants were completely comfortable at center, this move would feel routine. A veteran comes in, competes, helps the room, and provides a safety net. But when ESPN has already pointed to a glaring hole on the roster, and that hole connects directly to the interior offensive line, suddenly this signing takes on a different meaning. It becomes less about comfort. It becomes about urgency. Patrick gives the Giants practical help. He gives them a veteran option. He gives them insurance if the center picture gets shaky. That does not mean he was brought in to take the job outright. The source says Schmitz is still projected to start. But projected does not mean protected. That matters. The Giants are not operating like a team pretending everything is solved. They are acting like a team that knows the offensive line still hinges on a very specific question. Does John Michael Schmitz improve enough? If he does, Patrick becomes smart depth. If he does not, Patrick becomes something much more important. And this is where the season impact comes in. Jaxson Dart is the current Giants starting quarterback. The entire offensive operation depends on the line holding up in front of him. You cannot build a serious offense if the middle keeps leaking stress. MetLife Stadium has seen enough of that movie. Big Blue Nation knows the difference between real confidence and off-season spin. The G-men do not need pretty words. They need the interior to function. Now, here is the truth nobody is telling you. This is not a flashy move, but it is an honest one. The Giants are admitting they need insurance without saying the quiet part out loud. Personal opinion here. I think this is a good signing, but not a complete fix. Patrick helps because veteran insurance matters, but the whole thing still comes down to Schmitz improving. That is my read. Disagree? Drop your reasoning below. And that brings us to story 2. Because Patrick is the headline name. But the bigger question is whether this signing exposes something the Giants still have not solved. Now, what most channels miss is this. The Giants did not just add an offensive lineman. They added context. They added evidence. They added a warning sign. The reveal is the center position. John Michael Schmitz is still projected to start, but concerns remain. That is not a small detail. That is the entire pressure chamber around this roster. Because center is not just another offensive line spot. Center controls communication. Center touches every snap. Center sets the tone for the interior. If that position is unstable, the whole offense feels it. And the Giants know it. That is why the Patrick signing matters more than a normal depth transaction. The team is not drowning in endless options to fix the interior line before the season. The source is clear. At this stage of the offseason, the options are limited. That is the scary part. Not because Patrick is a bad addition. He is not. The scary part is that the Giants may already be at the point where internal improvement matters more than outside rescue. Schmitz has to improve. Patrick has to be real insurance. The coaching staff has to squeeze the best version out of this group. And the front office has to live with the reality that there is no endless menu of clean fixes sitting there. That is where the rookie minicamp context matters. Young players are arriving. Roster movement is happening. The bottom of the roster is shifting. But none of that changes the central truth. The offensive line picture still hinges heavily on Schmitz and Patrick. That is the funnel, not 10 different stories. 2 names. 1 problem. Schmitz as the projected starter. Patrick as the veteran insurance. Everything else is noise until somebody proves the middle is stable. And this is where the rivalry edge kicks in. The Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders do not care about excuses. They will attack weakness. If the Giants show a soft middle, the division will test it immediately. That is why this matters to Big Blue. This is not a spreadsheet conversation. This is New York tough football. If the Giants want to punch back in the division, the interior line cannot be the place where drives go to die. I will say it, and I know half of you will push back. In my opinion, center is the most dangerous unresolved spot on this roster. Not because Schmitz is finished, but because the Giants are still depending on improvement and insurance at the same time. That is a gamble. Tell me I am wrong. Now I want your answer. Comment fixed if Patrick gives you real confidence. Comment worried if center still scares you. No middle ground. Quick reminder, if you are still here, you are Big Blue. Hit subscribe because story 3 is the one that ties this whole thing together. What is coming next is the real bomb. Because this is not just about who starts at center. It is about whether the Giants just quietly admitted the roster still has a glaring hole. Now, this is what you really came for. The story that changes how we read the Patrick signing. The one I teased at the start. The one that turns a simple veteran addition into a warning flare. Here it is. The Giants signed Lucas Patrick, and on the surface, that is a depth move. But the bigger question is this. Did New York just quietly admit they still have a problem at center? That is the bomb, not the signing by itself. The admission. Because teams rarely walk out and say, we are worried about this spot. That is not how front offices talk. They talk through moves. They talk through roster additions. They talk through insurance policies. And Patrick looks like insurance. The Giants have John Michael Schmitz still projected to start. That part matters. Nobody should twist this into something the source does not say. Schmitz is still projected as the starter. But if the Giants were fully settled there, the urgency around veteran help would feel different. Instead, the move lands directly beside the ESPN note about a glaring hole on the roster. And when that glaring hole connects to the offensive line, especially the interior, the conversation changes. Now connect this to Story 1 and Story 2. Story 1 gave us the name, Lucas Patrick. Story 2 gave us the pressure point. John Michael Schmitz is still projected to start despite concerns. Story 3 gives us the meaning. Big Blue knows the center question is not dead. That is the full picture. And it creates a very specific football problem. The Giants are not just trying to collect linemen. They are trying to protect the offense from one of the most damaging things a team can have, uncertainty in the middle. A tackle issue can be isolated at times. A guard issue can be helped with scheme. But center uncertainty touches everything, because the ball starts there. The snap, the calls, the interior timing, the pocket depth, the rhythm for Jaxson Dart. The entire operation starts with the center. So when the Giants add a veteran offensive lineman, while Schmitz remains projected to start, I do not see a random move. I see a team building a backup plan. And the brutal part is this. Backup plans are only comforting when the starter proves he does not need one. That is why Schmitz is still the key. The entire interior line conversation hinges on whether he improves. If he does, Patrick becomes exactly what you want. Veteran depth, insurance, experience, and competition. If Schmitz does not improve, then Patrick becomes a much bigger part of the conversation, and the Giants are forced into a harder decision. That is the tension, and the limited options piece makes it even sharper. The Giants are not sitting in a perfect market with endless clean answers. At this stage of the offseason, the source says the options to fix it are limited. So the front office is doing what practical teams do. They are adding veteran help. They are creating competition. They are protecting themselves against the risk that the projected starter does not fully settle the position. But let us be honest, Big Blue. That is not the same as solving the problem. It is managing the problem. There is a difference. And that difference is why this signing matters more than people think. It is not a headline built for casual fans. It is a roster management clue for people actually watching how the Giants are being built. The rookie minicamp context adds another layer. Young players are arriving. Roster movement is happening. There is energy around the bottom of the roster. But none of that erases the top-line question. Can the Giants trust the center spot? That is the question. That is the pressure. That is the reason Patrick's signing carries more weight than a normal veteran addition. I am going on record right now. In my opinion, this is the most revealing offensive move the Giants have made in this stretch. Not the flashiest, the most revealing. It tells me the team knows the line is still not safe enough, and center is the alarm bell. Convince me I am wrong. Now you have your answer to the question I asked earlier. Drop, fixed, or worried in the comments. And if this analysis hit, like the video. That is how we keep the algorithm pushing real Big Blue breakdowns, not lazy highlight noise. 3 stories. 1 picture. Here is what it all means together. Lucas Patrick is not just a body. John Michael Schmitz is not just a projected starter, and the Giants' offensive line is not fully settled. This is a pressure triangle. Patrick brings veteran help. Schmitz carries the starting projection. The front office carries the reality that outside options are limited. That is why this move matters. Against the Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders, weakness gets hunted. If Big Blue wants to be New York tough, the interior has to stop being a question and start becoming a strength. The Giants do not need the prettiest offensive line story in the league. They need one that works. And right now, the center spot is where the whole thing either stabilizes or starts cracking. Listen closely. The next video is going to break down what Patrick's arrival means for the Giants' offensive line competition and why Schmitz is now under a brighter spotlight. If you are Big Blue for real, subscribe now and hit the bell, because YouTube does not always show you the next breakdown unless you are locked in. Drop your final answer below. Fixed or worried. But here's the cliffhanger. One decision is still pending in spirit, even if the projected starter is clear. The Giants still have to find out whether Schmitz takes the step they need, or whether Patrick's insurance role becomes a bigger conversation. That answer is coming through performance, not press releases. And the division is not waiting. The Eagles are watching. The Cowboys are watching. The Commanders are watching. Every rival fan wants the Giants' offensive line to stay uncertain. So Big Blue has to answer with force. Not talk. Force. Big Blue Nation, the battle is here. Subscribe, stay locked, and let's go Giants. We ride together.